Barbell Weekly, Entry 6, strong week. One last final week of training before my lacrosse season starts. Here's my dynamic effort bench day. Worked with the football bar with 95 pounds, with about 80 pound of chain. As I said last week, dynamic effort bench press with chains is definitely difficult. The groove's not as stapled as band work is. It definitely feels a little heavier though, and I think next week I'm going to be throwing in bands and chains with a little bit of a lighter weight. So I'm going to see how that works out. This is my final week of fat grip incline press as a accessory. I did three sets of 4 at 225 with a really nice tight grip, really driving through with the triceps. Steve worked with, I believe, 180 pounds here for his 3+ week of Wendler's 531. This was a little bit of a sluggish week for Steve. I mean, he told me he was feeling a little run down. Work ran late a couple days. I know his deadlift, he didn't like the way it felt, but you know, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you have to take into account that your work day, your stressors from your real life. Not that we get paid to train, but they can creep into your training and your recovery. So it's always important to remember to recover the best that you can, so that you're able to get in the type of work you need to in the gym. Here's Kyle's. Kyle ended up maxing this week. He took 155 in the press for about 10. He could definitely do more than that. Later in the video, you'll see that he maxes out on the main movements, because next week he will be joining Steve in Wendler's 531. It's a basic template that's easy, it's effective, and these guys like it. Here's my speed day, my squat day. We worked with a front squat with about 175 pounds and 80 pound of chain. It felt good coming off the box. I had no irritation in my back. But once again, the chains, this is my second week working with chains in the dynamic effort squat, and it sucks. So upper back is definitely challenged, and you had to drive through the top of the lift. Here's a nice accessory movement that I got from Craig Merrick over at Made. It's really just a stiff leg deadlift. I do it with a wider stance to mimic the sumo pull, but that band is pulling your back, putting a ton of tension on the glutes and hamstrings. Something to add into your repertoire. I'm going to probably do it for a couple weeks, work up to the dumbbell weight, and just hammer it out. I did about 4 sets of 15. Here's Kyle's max day for his deadlift to try to get a training max. Worked up to 545 right here, which is a nice easy pull. We worked up to 610. It didn't go as well as he had planned, but it's alright. It's a training max anyway. 545 is a good number to work off of. And then he did a back down set of 500 for 5 here. Kyle does a good job resetting between each lift. I have a tendency to rush in between lifts, and I think that's what leads to my injuries. But Kyle does a good job setting himself, getting his back tight, keeping his positioning, and driving up through the lift. Real good pop. He's always had great pop off the floor. His positioning at the top gets a little funky. That's why he kind of struggles at lockout. But it is 500 for 5, and that's the heaviest weight that he has handled in the past 7 weeks. He was only working with, I think, maybe 340 for 5 sets of 10, so it wasn't too bad. Here's Steve's pull day. He got 425 for, I believe, a triple. Like I said, he said he didn't feel too well for him. His form stayed true though. That's what I told him. I said as long as the form is staying nice and tight. He didn't have much knee cave. He finished the lifts. Focus on recovery and move on to the next. My max effort bench day was a really tight grip. I had my ring fingers right where the grip started on the bar. That's a Texas squat bar. I worked up to 265 in chain. Probably about 80 to 90 pound of chain on there. I was happy with it. My triceps have definitely gotten stronger. That's a nice grinder right there. And then I moved into some extension work. Mainly I've been doing dumbbell extension work and a lot of banded extensions a couple times a week. But this was a nice change up. The chains deload at the bottom, so it takes a little bit of stress off the shoulder or elbow joint, and you're driving up through the top of the lift and it's heavier. I did about 4 to 5 sets of those of 10 to 12 reps. Here is Steve's Bench day, he's working with 275. Does a good job. I don't like that he trains at Metro. Obviously, he loves it. He's got some girl in the back probably staring at him, but I think that's his motivation. He hated me on this day. This was Saturday, our max effort day. We worked up to a heavy single at a front squat, a box squat. He worked at 225 for about 3 sets of 1. Then we moved on to chain pulls. He did a single here, 365 and 80-pound chain. I worked up to about 315, 325. I'm not sure what the bar weighs. Here's my last warm up here. The positioning of a front squat on a fairly lower box there is very challenging. It puts your spinal rectors in a place where they have to turn on, and if your form stays true, you'll be okay. But if it falters, you're gonna eat it. So here's 325. I think I had a little bit more left in me, but I didn't want to push it. Here's my deadlift sets. I'm working on something Mark Bell talks about, kind of accelerating through the lift slowly, break it off the floor, and then accelerate, just to keep positioning. Working with a double overhand grip, and I was happy. Here's Kyle, max, I believe he worked up to 525. Bit of a grinder, so he'll work 90% off of that. And then he has his bench day here of 330. So I hope everybody has a good week. Stay safe and stay strong.